It's me. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today, we're going to talk about hometowns. A lot of us were just home for the holidays, which is, an experience. Can be triggering and traumatizing. Childhood wounds are kind of a lot, when we return back to the places where we used to be. I mean, not to sound too kooky, but I am a big believer that energy lives in spaces. We feel it. You go back to places, you get deja vu, yada, yada. I think sometimes our hometowns and where we grew up hold on to energy of our young, unevolved selves, and it can just be a painful experience. That combined with seasonal depression, being home for the holidays sometimes can be a little bit difficult. But for me, I am not home for the holidays. I'm home for good. I moved home last year and it's been quite the experience. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get too far into it, let's see what the cards have to say. These are my friends' oracle cards. I love the messages on them. So today's says, my outer experiences are a reflection of my internal condition. Okay, that slaps. You know all those sayings like you are what you eat or you are who you hang out with, those kinds of things? I feel like that is so true. If you hang out with people who put you down, it might subconsciously mean that you think you deserve that. And I often believe that what's happening around us is kind of a mirror for what's happening inside of us. So if there's a situation that's really bothering you right now, ask yourself, what's it trying to tell you? Okay, let's get into it. Well, I guess I could start with why I moved home. You've probably heard the story if you've been following the podcast, but long story short, I got injured. I had to leave my career and I ended up having to move home and back, like literally with my parents after 10 years of living in my own apartment in Toronto and like traveling around the world and living a very independent and pretty badass lifestyle. I had to just like swallow my pride, tuck my tail between my legs and head on home. And I know it's not a failure. There were a lot of things outside of my control and I'm actually really happy to be home, but it was a punch to the gut because I grew up in it's an oil province. I'm Canadian. And I grew up in a really small little town in a prairie province. And, here, the life is very traditional. You grow up, you get married, you get a job, you work in the oil fields, you have a nice family, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of the thing. And that's not to say that everybody is the same here, but for the most part, that's where a lot of the values are. It's giving very Texas of Canada, Utah even. Some people say Florida, which is a little bit rude. And I don't agree with that because we don't have anything that even remotely resembles a beach in Alberta. But in terms of the people, I can't say with a lot of honesty that I felt like I related with anyone growing up. I mean, I'm an artist. You can imagine what it was like being a kid like me growing up in a town like this. I mean, I just always felt so out of place. I questioned societies and structures. And if you know enough about me, maybe if this is your first time watching me, I'm a polyamorous, pansexual, like rebellious artist, dancer, performer, little lady queen. So it's not giving very conservative vibes. I wanted to leave as soon as I possibly could. I packed up my bags. I saved up $1,000. Woo! Big bills, and moved to Vancouver on my own. It was ridiculous and insane and awesome. But I ran away. Realistically, I ran away from all the pain that I had experienced in this province. And it was hard here. I was bullied a lot growing up. There wasn't really a safe place for me. I stuck out everywhere I went. I pretty much only returned home for the holidays, like once or twice a year for pretty much a decade straight. I just avoided my hometown, like at all costs. I didn't want to be around it. I didn't want to be a part of it. And I have some of my closest, like best friends here, and I love them. And I don't think that Albertans, there's nothing wrong with the people in my town. It felt like actually there was something wrong with me. If you had told me 5 years ago that I would move back to my hometown, like I would have laughed in your face. It's not something that I ever considered doing. Coming home would always bring up a bunch of stuff for me. And usually that was coming home for the holidays. Most of the time that would manifest in like family things. Okay. When we get connected with our family, like a lot of triggers come up. And I grew up with 3 siblings. I'm the youngest child. It was a very loud, boisterous, like big personality household. Everybody just yelled at each other like all the time, big debates. That was just such a thing. And, as a young child, I was always kind of like this peacemaker, or like not really. I don't know if I would call it peacemaker, but I was just kind of like I was just the odd one out. I was always just like, hey, why are you doing that kind of thing? I don't know. I mean, I love my family. Like, let me make it so clear. I have an incredible family. And I think it goes to show how like personal trauma responses can be, because my role in the family traumatized me a lot only because I didn't have other safe places. So like school was unsafe, dance class was unsafe. Everywhere I went, I felt like the odd one out. So then since I was home and I also felt like the odd one out, it really felt like there was no safe place for me. So even though, you know, my upbringing with my siblings wasn't inherently like traumatizing or abusive by any means, I had a really privileged and good childhood, I still ended up with like a lot of trauma just because I'm so different from my siblings. And being the youngest, you know, you get lectured a lot, you get told what to do a lot, but any role that you have in your family comes with like crap. When you're the oldest, you have to take care of everything. When you're the middle, you get overlooked. You know, everybody has their thing in their family. And what I've really started to notice is it kind of doesn't really change. You sort of have to make peace with it. And that's been hard. You know, this past holiday season was not, it was not an easy one. My family and I have gone through the ringer together. We've gone through a lot of ups and downs. But one thing I really appreciate is that we're not afraid to deal with things. I really love that. And I know that we have the capacity to like work through things and like talk through things. If there's something I've noticed that's brought me a lot more peace through navigating difficult experiences in my home life, it's accepting the other person's inherent humanness in all that they are. I think like pretending like you are somehow just so evolved because you have, you know, gone to therapy or like you understand certain things in the world, you know, it doesn't make you like better than somebody. You might think it does, and that's great for you and your own standards, but you also have to like respect where people are at, and you just can't change them. I'm from Alberta. Okay. This is an oil province and I have tough conversations. My family is amazing people. They're all like incredibly evolved. And I'm talking about extended family too. I have to have hard conversations. And actually, let's just take it away from the family argument. People in Alberta, ever since I returned home, I've had more conversations about like trans rights than I ever did when I was living in the city surrounded by like artists and queers. So it is like a more difficult environment because you're with people who don't understand. But if you're not willing to accept them where they're at and grow with them at the level that they can grow, then you're not any better because you're just writing somebody off. And like, listen, there are certain people that are like hard-headed and there's boundaries and stuff that you have to set. But we forget with boundaries all the time. Boundaries are not about somebody else. It's not, hey, you can't say that around me anymore. Boundaries are, hey, if you say that around me, I'm going to leave. You're the one that's enforcing the boundary. You can't tell somebody else what to do. It has to be what you're doing. And I think we forget that in boundaries a lot. You can't control what somebody says. They're going to say what they say. You can control your response to it. And that's what a boundary is. It's just so much more about yourself than the people around you. And that's what I've noticed in like healing my place in this town, I guess. Like I said, I've always felt a little bit out of place here. I've always felt like a little bit off, but I didn't realize like how judgmental I was of my hometown and everything that they stand for. Because yeah, sure, there's different values. There's things that I value that maybe Edmonton doesn't value in the same way. That's fine. But there is so much beauty to this city, and there's so much beauty to this way of life and the things that they prioritize and they value, and they can like exist at the same time. The good things and the problems can exist at the same time. Because I'll tell you, there are major problems in Toronto. Just because I lived in the city where things are a little bit more like liberal and a little bit less conservative doesn't mean that it's like absent of problems. If anything, there were a lot of problems in Toronto, and I feel actually less depressed living in Edmonton than out there. And since I've come back, like being older, it is hard, okay? I don't know if you guys watched the Gilmore Girls reunion, but do you remember the scene with the 30-somethings club? Oh my God. And it's all these 30-year-olds that like returned home and they're like all hang out and they have nothing to do. Yeah, that is like very me. Mostly what I've found hard about integrating back into my hometown is just the fact that I missed really pivotal years. So like when you're in your later 20s, people aren't really like looking to build their community in the same way. Most people have like a bit more of an established life. And so just the timing of when I restarted everything and like blew up my life and wanted to rebuild. It was odd. It was hard because I came home, my friends, I missed a lot of their lives. They missed a lot of mine. There was almost too much to catch up on. And you're like different people, they're different friendships. And, I have like my close people, but in terms of like a community, a group, I built that in Toronto and I had to leave that. And that was like a whole thing. So like, now what do I do? Do I stay here? Do I keep trying? I think I've been meeting like a little bit of resistance here because I still don't really feel like I fit in. And I want to, I'm at the place now where I kind of do want to like settle. I think I want to move into the next like phase of my life. And I've been considering leaving Edmonton again and just being like, okay, well, where should I go next? Where should I settle? Just because I'm against the idea of settling here simply because of my like inherent core, like childhood beliefs of like, this town hates me and this like town doesn't want me here and I don't fit in here. But it's like, do I feel like I fit in? Like, do I feel worthy enough of being here? Because it really doesn't matter. This city has been nothing but kind to me. I mean, people have been harsh to me, but like, what the hell has the city done? What the hell has this place done? I mean, I don't know. I practice so much forgiveness in my life that I feel like I should forgive my hometown too, because I do kind of want to settle here. And lately I've been feeling like, wow, like maybe I do want to like get a place here and stuff and like really like put my feet on the ground. I love being closer to my family, but then I also like a lot of my friends are spread out around the world and I miss them. And I don't really feel like I have a group here. I have a couple friends here, but I've been really trying to like integrate into a community and I'm having trouble in meeting resistance. So I'm kind of stuck between the like question of, am I wanting to leave again out of fear or am I wanting to leave again because that's what's best for me? And I don't really know. I don't really have the answer because healing my relationship with my hometown, it's deep. I know does that sound lame to heal your relationship with a town? I don't know. I think a lot of you will get it. I hope a lot of you will get it. When you leave your home at a young age, even if you don't go to like a big city, even if you just go a little bit of a ways away, you figure out who you are without this place that's defined you. And then when you go back to the definition of everything, I mean, it's weird and people treat you weird. I felt like an alien growing up already. And now coming back and like doing social media, I've noticed that a lot of times, like I have trouble making new friends or establishing new connections because I'm not even joking. Like people literally think that watching my content is like a replacement for a friendship. Hey, like how come you haven't wanted to like see me lately? And they're like, well, I've been watching all your podcast episodes. And I'm like, okay, my like really good friends, like they don't really watch my stuff. And like, don't get me wrong, I mean, they do and they're supportive, but there's just like, there's something off. I actually really appreciate when people keep up to date with my social media. Like it means a lot to me. I worry that not everybody has like the right filter on it because as real as I am online, this is still a show. This is still like an edited thing that I'm putting together. And I never try to make things sound worse than they are, but I do sometimes try to put like a positive spin on things or like I'm trying to make a good impact with the internet. I talk about like my actual personal life sometimes online now and like real people are seeing it, like not just strangers on the internet. That's fine. It's like the people from my hometown are seeing it. I honestly feel a lot more like unsure of myself in the energy of my hometown. I'm a pretty competitive person, so I like the idea of like healing, like, no, like I'm good. I can stay here. I can build a life here. Like, yeah. Or do I just leave again? I mean, I don't know. What does the evolved version of me do? I honestly don't really have that answer, but I do know that making more peace with like accepting my town as it is has made it a lot more enjoyable. I've found more love for it again. I've been able to like enjoy it because holding so much hatred for my home, actually it didn't feel good. Holding hatred for anything doesn't feel good. Holding somebody to like this awful standard, to all the awful things or the awful parts of them, it's not going to make anybody feel good. In order to find like true forgiveness for yourself and for your experiences, you have to acknowledge that there are just like reasons outside of your control and there's just more than meets the eye. And maybe you have a really crappy town, maybe you grew up in awful places and that sucks. Healing that is not what I'm really trying to get at here is that no matter how rough your experience was, it's your childhood and it's like your upbringing in your home and you have to find a way to make peace with it or you'll probably never be able to really heal that. And it's going to cause you pain. It's just pain that you're carrying around. And it's easier if you just put it down. You know, you don't have to carry it around. I'm surprisingly happy here. I really didn't think that I would be so happy here. Things are just so slow here. Everybody's just so chill. Like nobody's like rushing. It's great. So if you are healing from a difficult holiday season, it's the time of seasonal depression. I think honestly, sometimes it gets worse like after the holidays because it's the come down of all the intensity. I invite you to take a little bit of extra care with yourself, find some forgiveness in your experiences. Everybody's got a story, and I don't know, finding compassion just makes things so much easier. God, that's so annoying. Sometimes it's so annoying when people tell you to be compassionate, but whatever. Okay, well, thank you so much for opening your mind up with me today. Don't forget to be kind to yourself and others, okay? I love you. Bye.